Robert Lemon, affectionately known as Rob by his family and friends, was a man of exceptional kindness. Although his imposing figure and the tattoo of his surname on the back of his head might seem daunting to outsiders, those who knew him well recognized him as a gentle giant, a warm-hearted individual with a nurturing spirit. When Robert first encountered his wife, Sabrina, there was an immediate connection between them. Sabrina, characterized by her sweetness and compassion, found a deep resonance with Robert's character. Despite their differences, they forged a profound bond and fell in love. Their faith played a significant role in their lives, as they attended Mass together every Sunday. In the year 2000, Robert and Sabrina were baptized in the same church, further solidifying their commitment to one another. They later celebrated their union in a beautiful wedding ceremony in Arizona, surrounded by family and friends. Over the years, the couple welcomed 2 children, dedicating themselves to nurturing a loving and stable family environment. Eventually, Robert and Sabrina decided to embrace a new chapter in their lives by relocating to Silver Lakes, California, a charming town situated 99 miles from Los Angeles. Silver Lakes provided a serene community ideal for raising their young family. While Sabrina devoted her time to managing the household and caring for the children, Robert found fulfillment in his role at BNSF Railway, a position he cherished. His work at the rail yards was not only a source of pride but also a true passion. Robert's dedication and strong work ethic earned him the admiration of his superiors. Although the rail yards were often bustling and chaotic, Robert navigated the challenges with unwavering commitment, fully aware of the inherent dangers of the environment. Individuals who would patrol the rail yards in search of cargo to pilfer represented a considerable danger to the safety of the employees. Nevertheless, Robert remained undeterred by these security issues and consistently maintained a vigilant stance. With his impressive stature and intelligence, he was more than capable of subduing any adversary, whether human or animal. Robert transcended the definition of a mere man, he embodied a formidable force of nature. In his personal life, Robert was as vibrant and dynamic as his character suggested. He and his wife, Sabrina, were inseparable companions who enjoyed a lively social life, relishing the opportunity to host parties and gatherings at their residence in Silver Lakes. Their warm and inviting demeanor drew individuals from diverse backgrounds into their circle of friends. What truly enchanted those around them was the youthful exuberance and unbreakable bond shared by Robert and Sabrina. They resembled a pair of teenagers in love rather than a long-married couple, often exchanging endearing nicknames and laughter, which left others feeling uplifted and inspired. Robert's attentiveness and commitment to Sabrina often elicited envy from her friends, who wished their husbands exhibited the same level of care and thoughtfulness. He seemed to possess an innate understanding of Sabrina's needs, consistently providing support that made her feel cherished and valued. Despite their extensive social network, the foundation of their friendships rested upon a close-knit group of men and women who called themselves the Wolf Pack. This group included Jason Bertine, a firefighter in Silver Lakes, and his wife Kelly, a hairdresser. As the years passed, Robert and Sabrina established themselves as the central figures for social gatherings, fostering an enjoyable environment characterized by laughter and memorable experiences. Alcohol played a pivotal role in their lives, and they adopted the mantra "It's 5-0 somewhere" as a light-hearted justification for their drinking habits. However, their heavy consumption of alcohol coincided with a shift in their marital dynamics. In response to these changes, the couple opted for an open arrangement, granting each other the freedom to pursue relationships with others. Among the couples they often socialized with were their friends Jason and Kelly. Despite the unconventional nature of their arrangement, Robert and Sabrina appeared to be more content than ever, projecting the image of a quintessential modern American family. On Sunday, August 17, 2017, Robert set out on his routine 85-mile commute to work at BNSF Railways in Tehachapi. That evening, he was covering for a colleague and had a scheduled shift at the BNSF warehouse, a nondescript industrial facility on the city's outskirts. As the night wore on, Sabrina awaited Robert's return. As this night held particular importance for them, their daughter was set to start school the following day. Their daughter was reluctant to go to bed without receiving a goodnight kiss from her father. However, concern began to mount for Sabrina when Robert failed to come home. Meanwhile, at the BNSF warehouse, Robert's replacement arrived to find him unresponsive on the floor. In shock, the co-worker immediately dialed 911 to notify the authorities. Officers and paramedics arrived at the location within minutes, but their attempts to save Robert were ultimately futile. Despite their diligent efforts, the medics could not revive him. Robert was discovered seated against his work truck, and upon examination, the detective noted that he had sustained 2 gunshot wounds, one to the upper torso and another to the head. Crime scene investigators promptly secured and processed the area, which was a small warehouse owned by BNSF. As they meticulously searched the site, they uncovered a significant piece of evidence: a spent bullet located above Robert's head. This bullet was collected for forensic analysis as investigators worked to unravel the details of this brutal crime. As they continued their examination, the investigators entered the warehouse office and observed signs of a struggle. Drawers had been pulled out, and their contents were scattered across the floor, including shop manuals, binders, and essential documents, all seemingly discarded in a haphazard manner. Initially, the detectives theorized that Robert's murder was a crime of opportunity, suggesting that a suspect intending to commit robbery had encountered the unsuspecting victim and opened fire, leaving him dead on the ground. However, as the investigation advanced, the detectives began to reassess their initial conclusions. A closer inspection revealed that the crime scene had been deliberately staged. The news of Robert's murder reached his wife, Sabrina, leaving her devastated and engulfed in shock and grief. She withdrew to her room, struggling to process the tragic loss. Isolated from the outside world, Robert's loved ones were reluctant to engage in the planning of his funeral while the investigation into his murder unfolded. The detectives encountered a unique dilemma: every individual who knew Robert characterized him as an extraordinary person. Friends and family depicted him as a man endowed with charm, intelligence, and charisma, asserting that he was the kind of individual every woman desired. This overwhelming admiration for Robert perplexed the detectives. If he was indeed such a remarkable man, what could have motivated someone to take his life so brutally? As the investigation advanced, the detectives found themselves at an impasse. There were no witnesses to the shooting, and the crime scene yielded no evidence that could point to a suspect. The only individual left for questioning was Robert's wife, Sabrina. She assured the investigators that her relationship with Robert was exemplary and expressed her disbelief that anyone would wish him harm. Although a bullet fragment was recovered from the scene, it proved to be of little evidentiary value. Nevertheless, the detectives established that the bullet originated from a .44 or .45 Magnum firearm. Despite the absence of concrete leads, the detectives remained resolute in their quest to uncover the truth behind Robert's murder, driven by a commitment to deliver justice for a man who, by all accounts, deserved nothing less than the best in life. In their pursuit of answers, the detectives obtained security camera footage to aid in piecing together the events surrounding the crime. The warehouse where Robert was employed presented a significant challenge for investigators, as the camera installed in his work truck was not operational at the time of the incident, rendering it ineffective. The only available footage came from a camera positioned outside the warehouse. As detectives reviewed this footage, they observed an individual with a limp traversing the warehouse complex around the estimated time of Robert's shooting. Unfortunately, the poor quality of the video hindered the ability to discern any distinguishing features of this individual. However, the detectives were inclined to believe that the person was male, based on the body shape observed. In response to the situation, Robert's employer, BNSF Railway, took proactive measures to assist in the investigation by offering a reward of $1,000 for any information that could lead to an arrest. This initiative resulted in a surge of tips from the public, yet regrettably, none of the information proved pertinent to Robert's case. As the investigation progressed, authorities uncovered additional video footage of Robert from the day of his death, sourced from local businesses along Goodrich Drive, adjacent to the warehouse. The detectives meticulously analyzed this footage, successfully identifying and tracking every vehicle that passed through the area during that timeframe. However, one significant exception remained. Despite their thorough efforts, the detectives could not ascertain the identity of the motorcyclist who rode through the vicinity around the time of Robert's murder. This enigmatic motorcycle rider captured the detectives' attention, as they strongly suspected a connection to the crime, yet were unable to confirm any details. The identity of the motorcyclist remained elusive due to a helmet concealing their face, which compounded the frustrations of the investigation. Despite their diligent efforts, the detectives were unable to ascertain the individual's identity. As they tirelessly endeavored to uncover the truth behind the crime, an unexpected lead emerged from Robert's friend, Jason Bertine, 3 weeks after Robert's murder. Jason approached the detective assigned to the case, providing crucial information that could illuminate the investigation. He mentioned a man named Jonathan Hearn, a firefighter who had previously worked with him, and expressed concerns regarding Jonathan's connection to Robert's wife, Sabrina Oman. Jason relayed that Jonathan had reached out to him, leaving a voicemail in which he conveyed remorse for Robert's death. However, the message was perplexing, as Jonathan did not explicitly acknowledge any involvement in the murder but rather expressed sorrow for the incident. Additionally, Jason presented further evidence to the authorities concerning Jonathan Hearn, including a letter in which Jonathan repeatedly apologized for an unspecified matter. This letter, however, did not clarify the reasons behind his apologies. Furthermore, Jason's wife, Kelly, communicated her own suspicions to the detectives, noting that Jonathan had been spending considerable time at Sabrina and Robert's residence following Robert's murder, which she found peculiar. The detectives initiated their investigation by examining this new information. In 2012, it was revealed that Sabrina, the girlfriend of the victim, Robert, was employed part-time at Costco, where she frequently encountered Jonathan Hearn, a regular shopper. Their interactions led to a conversation that blossomed into a romantic relationship after they exchanged phone numbers. Unbeknownst to Robert, he later discovered intimate text messages on Sabrina's phone, which severely damaged his trust in her. Although Sabrina promised Robert that she would terminate her relationship with Jonathan, this assurance proved to be unfulfilled. As detectives pursued various leads, they uncovered that Jonathan Hearn had access to a motorcycle, which raised suspicions regarding his potential involvement in Robert's murder. Further investigation revealed that a Yamaha motorcycle was registered in Jonathan's name, reinforcing the detectives' theory of his possible connection to the crime. The combination of the motorcycle evidence and Jonathan's clandestine relationship with Sabrina positioned him as a viable suspect. In an effort to gather additional evidence, detectives concentrated on obtaining CCTV footage from local businesses. Their persistence yielded results when they discovered footage of a motorcycle rider entering a nearby Pilot gas station. Additional footage from the convenience store captured the suspect, who was identifiable by a red bandana. To obscure his identity, the suspect wore a helmet, which hindered the detectives from discerning his features. Despite their suspicions, they found themselves in a challenging situation. Without solid evidence connecting the motorcycle rider to Jonathan Hearn, an arrest could not be made. The absence of visual identification left the investigation stalled. Nevertheless, the detectives remained convinced of Sabrina's involvement in the murder, believing that if their hypothesis held true, her partner Jonathan was likely the perpetrator. In their pursuit of justice for Robert's murder, the detectives decided to install a wiretap on Sabrina's phone, hoping to capture any incriminating discussions between her and Jonathan that could provide the necessary evidence. Although Sabrina and Jonathan frequently conversed, their discussions primarily revolved around faith and religion. However, there were instances when Jonathan explored his beliefs more deeply, reciting Psalm 51, which recounts the story of David of Bathsheba. This particular psalm, addressing the repercussions of adultery, piqued the detectives' interest, leading them to speculate whether their dialogue held a more significant implication. To encourage Sabrina and Jonathan to reveal more, the detectives crafted a clever strategy. They contacted Sabrina, falsely claiming that DNA evidence had been discovered at the crime scene linking the suspects to Robert's murder. This tactic was intended to elicit a response from both Sabrina and Jonathan, hoping it would lead them to discuss their potential involvement in the crime. As soon as the detective concluded the call, the plan was set in motion. Sabrina was quickly monitored through the wiretap, and she promptly contacted her lover, Jonathan. During their conversation, neither Sabrina or Jonathan directly acknowledged their involvement in Robert's death. However, the detectives found the dialogue to be revealing. Their lack of enthusiasm regarding the DNA evidence suggested they were concealing information. On November 18, 2014, detectives obtained search warrants for several locations connected to Robert's murder, which were essential for collecting evidence and constructing the case. At one of the search sites, Jonathan's residence, detectives discovered a Yamaha motorcycle, a helmet, a red bandana, a backpack, and various other items. That same day, both Jonathan and Sabrina were arrested. Following their apprehension, Sabrina was taken to the police station for an extensive 4-hour interrogation, during which she vehemently denied any involvement in her husband's murder. She insisted on her innocence and refused to implicate herself, despite the detectives' persistent questioning. Ultimately, no evidence was found linking Sabrina to the shooting, leading the detectives to release her. Upon her return to Silver Lakes, Sabrina faced an unexpected wave of hostility from her neighbors. The community that had once embraced her in her husband's notorious gatherings now turned against her. She endured harassment and threats, which compelled her to withdraw her children from school. The mounting pressure became intolerable, prompting Sabrina to decide to leave the area. Sabrina, seeking a new beginning after her time in Silver Lakes, moved to Camarillo, California, on January 7, 2017. Subsequently, she was arrested for the murder of her husband, Robert. This time, the charges were upheld, and the case proceeded to trial. Jonathan became the key witness for the prosecution, testifying that Sabrina had proposed divorcing Robert to pursue a relationship with him. However, Robert had expressed his deep love for Sabrina, stating he would rather die than lose her. According to Jonathan, this led Sabrina to devise a plan to murder her husband. In their initial attempt, Sabrina allegedly mixed arsenic into Robert's banana pudding, which contained vanilla wafers, but the effort failed, and Robert survived. Undeterred, Sabrina and Jonathan plotted a second attempt. She provided him with detailed descriptions and images of the warehouse and its surroundings, ensuring he understood what to expect when he entered to confront Robert. On August 17, 2017, Jonathan testified to the jury that he followed Sabrina's directions and rode his motorcycle to the warehouse. He confirmed the CCTV footage that captured a man with a limp entering the premises, although he later admitted to faking the limp to mislead the police and divert suspicion from himself. Once inside the warehouse, Jonathan confronted Robert and confessed to shooting him, following Sabrina's instructions to stage the scene as a robbery. He stated that he ransacked the office before leaving the warehouse. Jonathan came to the realization that Robert was not deceased, he was still alive and breathing. He confessed to having shot Robert a second time, this time targeting his head. Following the act, Jonathan fled the scene on his motorcycle, overwhelmed by a blend of disbelief and guilt. He hurried back home, and upon his arrival, he noticed he had received multiple missed calls from Sabrina. Without delay, Jonathan returned Sabrina's call and admitted to her that he had committed the murder. As the trial unfolded, the prosecution summoned Sabrina Limon to testify. She served as a crucial witness for the defense, and her remarks generated considerable speculation within the courtroom. During her testimony, Sabrina stated that she and Robert had maintained a positive relationship at the time of his death. However, she also revealed her feelings for Jonathan Hearn, admitting to a romantic involvement with him while asserting that she had no intention of leaving Robert. Sabrina claimed that she and Jonathan were simply exploring their options and contemplating a future together, all while remaining committed to their respective marriages. The prosecution, however, contended that Sabrina's actions contradicted her assertions. A significant element of their case was the suggestion that Sabrina might have had a motive to murder Robert for financial gain, particularly through Robert's life insurance policy. In response, Sabrina refuted these allegations, explaining that any funds she received were allocated to a savings account intended for their children's living expenses. She maintained that she never planned to use the money for her personal benefit. Sabrina Lemone's prior knowledge or involvement in the death of her husband was a focal point of the prosecution's case. They presented evidence to the jury indicating that Sabrina did not exhibit the behavior typical of a grieving widow following the shooting. Text messages exchanged between Sabrina and Jonathan revealed the continuation of their romantic relationship. In one message, Sabrina referred to Jonathan as a sexy guy and expressed her love for him, even stating her desire to kiss him incessantly. After a lengthy trial, Sabrina was convicted on 4 of the 6 charges against her, including first-degree murder, attempted murder, solicitation, and conspiracy to commit murder. She was acquitted of the poisoning charge, which left some questions and speculation lingering. In November 2017, Jonathan Hearn was sentenced in accordance with his plea agreement, having pleaded guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter, resulting in a sentence of 25 years and 4 months. During the sentencing hearing, Jonathan conveyed his remorse and apologized to Robert's family and friends, demonstrating genuine regret for his actions and their consequences. The judge sentenced Sabrina to 25 years to life, along with an additional 16 months. Despite her conviction, Sabrina displayed no remorse and subsequently filed an appeal with a new attorney, arguing that her previous counsel should not have permitted her to testify, claiming that this decision compromised her defense. Sabrina asserted that her legal counsel did not sufficiently prepare for her trial and neglected to safeguard her interests, which contributed to her conviction. Although her appeal was processed through the state courts, her conviction was ultimately affirmed. Disheartened, Sabrina opted to escalate her case to federal court. The case garnered considerable attention, with legal analysts and media outlets pondering the potential for her acquittal. Nevertheless, in January 2023, the federal court also upheld her conviction, delivering a significant setback to Sabrina's aspirations.